So, tell me a little bit about how you ended up coming to Mowgli, Adrian.
Yeah, I was 9 years old. I had two older brothers that let's just say I think it was my grandmother's idea, give me a little break from my older brothers. And we grew up in Northern California, in Sonoma, California. Um, and so my cousin was going there. My grandfather had gone there in the 30s. His two twin brothers had gone there, and one of their sons was um, what do you call it, a first year junior staff member when I first went to join the Cubs in 1985. So yeah, it was a big deal for me. I was flying across the country. I get to hang out with my grandmother a little bit in um, Massachusetts, and then get on a van or whatnot to Mowgli and spend the summer there. And uh, that was the first summer in 1985 in the Cubs. I was 9 years old.
Yep. And your grandfather was
Charles Bird.
Charles Bird.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he was there in the mid 30s.
Uh-huh.
That's how we were connected to the camp. I'd had a few generations of family that had gone.
Uh-huh.
My parents both grew up on the East Coast. They moved out to San Francisco in the late 60s.
Well, Bird is a name that I often see associated with Mowgli. And of course, you said he was there in 1938, which was also the summer that the first that another fellow with the last name of West was at Mowgli, but we know him as Wah Pah Nah Yah.
Yeah. So, and they're actually friends. I have some Wah Pah Nah Yah paintings in my house
Oh, really? Huh.
that my grandfather wanted me to have when he passed away. They were personal friends.
Huh.
So I've got like three different. They're quite small. I mean, they're not massive like the famous stage screen at Gray Brothers that we're all familiar with. These are, you know, 2 by 3 foot paintings or smaller, something like that. But I would have three of them.
Well, that was the most common size that he painted, certainly back in the 30s. It was um, so that's interesting. So they were buddies at Mowgli.
Yeah,
Huh.
or at least knew each other and became pals after, I guess. Stayed in
Right,
touch.
right. Yep. Well, that's cool. So, what dorm did you start out in?
Cubs.
Cubs in '85. And who was the Cub parents that year?
Was it her name was Virginia Valace?
Oh, okay, sure. Yeah.
Valace. There were a couple of Valace boys that were at the camp in those years. Greg and Michael, maybe.
Yeah, that's right.
And the uh, the guy was a Welshman. I think his name was Wilkinson. Maybe he was only there for a year, short
Huh.
stint. But he
Yeah.
introduced us to cricket. So,
Oh, really?
oh yeah, I never heard of cricket, but we managed to play some up at Cubland that year.
Huh. Now, I didn't think, I mean, we got introduced, I got introduced as a young boy to cricket by a fellow from India named Shad Faraki, who was a tennis counselor for, I think, 3 years at Mowgli, but I thought it had disappeared. So I'm happy to hear that it had come back for at least a period in the 80s.
Yeah, at least a short period.
Yeah, but I mean, it gives you a claim to fame that not a whole lot of Americans can say, that they that they grew up and learned how to play cricket.
Some form of it at least. Yeah, I couldn't tell you how to score it or anything like that today, but
Yeah, no, I've completely forgotten all that. That's funny. And what do you remember of your trips and the shenanigans from your first year there? Anything?
uh yeah, it was fun. I mean, we were kind of isolated. You're up on the Cubland, right? My cousin was in Baloo, I think. He didn't come back after that. It wasn't wasn't his cup of tea. My other, I guess, uncle was junior staff down there, so I didn't see them much. That was a little weird to me. But we had a great time because you're kind of isolated, right? You have your own beach instead of the main waterfront. You have your own ball field or kind of a area up there in Cubland.
Who was your uncle? Who was his counselor?
Matt Bird.
Oh, Matt Bird. Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember him well.
He was probably a camper when you were there. Probably showed up right as.
Yeah.
That was I think the only year he did it. He didn't come back after that. And my cousin didn't come back either when I returned to the pack in the following years.
So how many years were you at Mount?
I was there Cubs all through Den in
Oh,
1990, and then I did 1 year as junior staff.
uh-huh.
1990, I think it was 1991.
Wow.
So whatever that's 7 years, I think.
Yeah. All right. So let's see. Now that was in the era was Bob Bengton the director, or was Mr. Hart still around?
Yeah, that was Bob Bengton.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And Rick was there. Pete St. John was big force years I was there. Who else? The Merrills.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Doug and Don. I mean, I think Don was pretty much waterfront and crew, and Doug was trip counselor or trip master.
Right.
So they were definitely guys that we all looked up to. Those folks on the staff. Yeah, who else? Richard Morgan was around off and on for those years.
Yeah, well, Richard Morgan, I mean, he's a fixture, isn't he?
Sometimes he was around more than others, but he was always around.
Yeah.
It was a good group.
Yeah, yeah. Pete St. John is a very memorable fellow. Such a unique personality.
He was great. Yeah, he was great. I don't remember his exact stories, but he told us one with a great long story, very elaborate with a great punchline about tricks are for kids or something. And he read us. I remember he read us Jungle Book and Lost on a Mountain in Maine, which actually my older son, who's 10 years old, just turned 10. I had him read it.
Oh, nice.
Remember that one?
Yeah, Don
Fendler, I think it is. Yeah. Gets lost in Mount Katahdin for I guess 9 days or something.
Yeah.
Quite a interesting short account.
Yep.
But yeah, Bob Bengton was the director all the years that I was there.
Yep.
I didn't come back my late like in high school or college years, but I remember staying in touch with him. You know, in those days we still wrote letters.
Sure. Yeah.
Into when I was a freshman in college, I still have, I think, a letter or two we exchanged. So it was definitely an important influence for me personally, but also I think major influence on the camp in those years.
Right. Of course. And what were your most memorable experiences in the mountains?
I mean, I'm a big skier. I haven't made it back to ski Tuckerman's Ravine yet, but I remember hiking Mount Washington and seeing snow there like very late in the summer. I mean, pretty sure it was August.
Sure.
Just being completely blown away that there was snow in the mountains at the end of the summer. Yeah. I don't remember the names of all the hiking trips, but definitely really liked the overnight packing trips where you were, carrying all your gear on your back.
Yeah.
Felt pretty neat.
Yeah. Did you go to the Mahoosucs?
Yep. In the Montalban, I think it was called.
Montalban Ridge. Yep.
And then there was a trip that we used to do at Den. I don't know if they still do it, to the Connecticut Lakes.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
That was really neat too. That was like a longer trip, like 4 days, and you'd get up at like 4 a.m. to see the moose going down to the lake and eating, watering, whatever, and to catch the sunrise. That was a pretty neat trip.
Yeah. Well, that's where I'm living, not that far north, but I'm living about an hour and a half north of Mowgli in a little town called Bath, which is right on the Connecticut River. So it's only another, well, it's probably another hour to go all the way north to the Connecticut lakes, but that was a very memorable place.
I smile when I hear the Connecticut River because Mowgli introduced me to rowing. I went on to row in college pretty significantly, successfully. It was captain my senior year, and we went undefeated my freshman year. Out of the Charles, rowed at Henley in England.
Oh, you
Uh,
did? Huh.
yeah, all kinds of stuff. But so I went to Trinity College in Hartford, Connecticut. It's on the Connecticut River, but
Right.
pretty far down from where you are. And we were out practicing one spring afternoon, and all of a sudden there's all this noise and commotion because I guess Dartmouth has a tradition of going down the Connecticut River, and towards the end of their spring semester, and students take all kinds of various boats, canoes, what have you, and the Connecticut's pretty uh, scenic, not very urban, right? Until you get to Hartford,
Right.
and their tradition is to disrobe when they get to, when they
Oh,
get to
really?
Hartford. Yeah, there was construction activity going on in those days to redo the bridges and the interstate freeway. So there were all sorts of construction boats speeding around, making a lot of noise. But blah. I
Oh,
guess that's the first like city that they come upon, or any urban kind of site when they're coming down the Connecticut River was when they got to Hartford. So
so so did they just do it for a short period of time, or was this like something that
yeah, right where we were practicing, right in front of our boathouse, and
uh, yeah, I did read that you had been on the crew at Trinity, but I did not realize that you had gone to Henley.
yeah. Well, my freshman year, we won every race, including like the New England Championship and the national race for Division two. It wasn't racing against the Ivy Leagues and whatnot. And then so we came back and we thought we were going to have a great year. My sophomore year um, ended up being kind of lackluster. But we went to Henley anyway,
Huh.
and we got over there. And it's a totally different format, right? It's not heats with six boats going down and the top two go on to the next round. It's like a tournament where they set up a tournament grid and two boats go against each other, and if you win you move on, if you lose you go home. Well, we had the second or third fastest, I think it was second or third fastest time out of the 32 boats in our field, but we went up against the Japanese national lightweight team, and they beat us in the first round. We were done. So
Uh-huh.
then we got to enjoy Henley, just not worry about racing and training, just Pimm's cups and enjoying the scenes.
Was it the first time you'd ever been to England?
uh, yes, it was.
Interesting. For a
A
young
lot
man.
going on that time of year. We went to Wimbledon for a day. You got those are the three big things, I guess. They have an Ascot the horse event, Henley, and Wimbledon are all kind of within a few weeks of
Uh-huh.
each other, overlapping. So
Wow.
yeah, it was a cool experience.
And were you on a squad?
At Trinity,
No, no, at Mowgli on one of the honor squads.
hiking, I was not.
Okay. And what about the ribbons you won? Do you remember them?
Uh, I know I was pretty focused. Yeah. Um, did most of the waterfront ones. I got inner circle in my third year, so I got red,
Wow.
uh, silver, white. I like tennis. Played some tennis. Got yellow. Uh, axemanship, orange,
Mm-hmm.
green, purple. I don't know how many that is, but
Wow.
I think I got 7 or 8, maybe 8.
Yeah.
Four of the first 3 years, and then 4 of the second 2 years, something like that.
Yeah. Wow. Huh.
So I got a lot done ribbon wise, and
Yeah.
rowing. I was on the red crew. We won every race I was in, um, including the two. I was on racing crew 2 years,
2 years.
Panther, Panther and Dent. So we had a lot of success there. I was co-captain or something of the rowing crew, I think, the last year, but did not make a hiking squad. No, I never really fully understood why, but
Yeah.
it's not like making a crew boat where there's a limited number of seats necessarily.
Right. Right.
Um, so that definitely stung a little bit, and I wish I kind of better understood why. But I guess some people had different opinions of me. I got various honors, but not that one.
Yeah. Sure. I mean, there are things that we excel at. Um, there that are different from one another. That's for sure. I mean, I was talking a couple of weeks ago with Dave Kincannon, who, his specialty was the waterfront ribbons, and he's been a a heavyweight in exploration. He's buddies with Jeff Bezos. They did the the dive down to recover the Apollo engines together, and and he started doing scuba diving at Mowglis. So
Really?
yeah, it's just and there was no set program, but it just so happened that at the waterfront they needed somebody to put in the boat moorings, and that's
Yeah.
how he got into it. And he ended
Okay.
up finding that old crew boat, not crew boat, the mail boat, the sunken mail boat off of Blue Cove,
Yeah.
and exploring that. Everybody has a different story to tell. Did you ever end up on Mr. Bengtson's porch for misbehaving?
Oh, probably. Yeah, probably. I don't remember.
Yeah, you don't necessarily remember those things. Um, but who were some of the memorable characters in your own dorm?
Well, it was kind of pretty fun because, well, I know when I first showed up there were a couple of families from Richmond, Virginia,
Mm-hmm.
the Yatemans. So, and
Yeah.
Thomas Yateman was a good pal of mine that was in my dorm, and the Guthridge family.
Oh, sure.
And David was in our dorm for a couple of years, and his brothers were older. And then I don't know, he didn't come back, I think, after the first 2 or 3 years.
Uh-huh.
But somehow, being from California, I was allowed to be on the Civil War on the Southern Confederate team with those guys
Ah,
in Tumai when they were recreating battle scenes. Let's see, it was a pretty international group. We had a couple guys from Spain later. Man, there were two or three of them. They were good characters. They always got away with a lot of foul language because they were speaking in Spanish.
right. Nobody knew they were swearing.
Taught me a lot of colorful Spanish. Um, and there was so Pablo. I don't remember all their last names. Pablo and Isaac, another guy, and
Pablo Nieto, maybe.
I want to say Rivero.
Oh, okay, sure. Yep. Yeah, I recognize that name.
And Isaac was Basque. I remember he was not Spaniard, he was Basque.
Oh, okay.
And
Yeah.
his dad owned nightclubs and you know, uh, he was quite a character.
Huh.
And then there was a Canadian guy, I think his name was Jean Derry. So he spoke French. He was from Quebec.
Wow.
So it was a pretty international group.
I guess it was.
A few other more traditional guys from New York and Connecticut and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Cliff was a guy on the red team with me. It was a really strong rower year in year out. So yeah, it was One year was unusual. I guess the numbers and the dorms were a little light. My Aquila year, they combined us with the Panther, and we were all in Panther. So I was actually in Panther 2 years in a row,
Oh, okay.
which was a little unusual.
Yeah.
Uh,
Years ago, before your time, a lot of kids were in Panther 2 years, and I don't know whether it was something that Mr. Hart started or even Colonel Elwell, that they sort of examined the kids in their Panther year and decided whether or not they were ready to move on to the den, or whether it might be a good idea for them to do a second year in Panther. So they actually, you might recall seeing signs around the camp that said Black Panther and Yellow Panther, which was how they had separated them out. But Colonel Elwell certainly did it, and I think Mr. Hart did it as well. But most people just did 1 year in Panther. And then after Mowgli, what did you tell us about the arc of your life since then?
yeah, we're talking about Trinity College a little bit. So Berlin was a big part of my life there, but I also was studying economics, and then went to work on Wall Street for Lehman Brothers. This was, late 90s, when it was still one of the, top handful of firms on Wall Street.
Yeah, that was a place to be then, right?
It was a great firm. Yeah. Uh, and I wanted to get back to California. I mean, life in New York, I quickly realized wasn't something I wanted to do long term.
Uh-huh.
I was working 90 plus hours a week. It was quite a grind, and just, not the lifestyle I was looking for. So started trying to get back to California. I thought I was going to do that with Lehman, and then the guy I was working with left the firm. And so that was 99, 2000. The sky was the limit for a young guy in business, and the dot-com boom, and everybody was leaving the banks to go to, dot-com startups and venture capital firms and whatnot. So I decided to go to grad school, and I ended up going to University of Southern California in Los Angeles. So that's how I ended up down in Southern California. Things kind of quickly changed during my first year. Actually, it was my second year. Beginning of my second year was World Trade Center bombing, 9/11. Put a lot of damper on everything, quite honestly. But I ended up sticking with investment banking and just went to more of a mid-sized firm out of grad school, and gone through a couple of those smaller mid-sized firms, and I now work at a boutique investment bank called Next Gen Capital.
And tell us about what Next Gen does.
Yeah, we're a private advisory firm, so we have kind of three legs of our stool. I do investment banking work, which is advising pretty much privately held businesses on mergers and acquisitions. So a lot of times I'm selling a company for a family, or the founders, entrepreneurs. I do a lot in industrials and in building products. So windows, doors, flooring, panels, moldings, natural stone. The deal I closed earlier this year was a fourth generation family business in Wisconsin with stone quarries and fabrication shops. And
that's interesting. Huh.
We helped the 38-year-old CEO buy out his dad, brother, and sister, and brought in a new investor for him, and made everybody a lot of money.
Wow.
So that's kind of typical thing we'll do. But Next Gen, we also have a multifamily office, which is some self-made kind of billionaire types, made money in various industries, and we do all sorts of investment work, direct investments, tax work, all sorts of things for those folks. And then occasionally we'll invest our own funds alongside those guys or other family offices. So
I seem to recall reading that you were doing some work in green investment as well, renewables and all that. Maybe
yeah. Yeah, I've done a few projects like biomass power plant we sold. We helped with the biodiesel fuel production facility. Doing some work on a green hydrogen project right now. So
That's
I'd
a
say investment banking is never boring, but it's these projects. Some of these renewable projects can take 10 years.
sure. Yeah.
It's that there's that many moving parts with the assets, the financing, the power contract, the fuel supply, the permitting, the review process.
Yeah.
So investment banking in general is not for the faint of heart, I would say, and the renewable side it's I'd say easier, and uh, there's more interested investors now and more government support with the quote unquote Inflation Reduction Act and so forth than there's ever been. But
Right.
they're complicated projects
Yeah.
in general.
So it's all, I mean, uh, there is a wide variety of things to get involved with where you, in terms of next gen.
Yeah, I mean we're a small firm, so we try not to do too much. We try to just do the things we do really well.
Yeah.
Not overpromise things, that we're not good at. We don't do a lot of high tech or real estate deals or aerospace and defense, but try to do things we do really well, give it senior attention.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been pretty interesting.
And I mean, you've risen right up to the top there.
Yeah, it's a little different than being a senior guy in a boutique firm. Got a lot of control over what you're doing, a lot of impact on what you're doing versus being a first year, second year analyst at Lehman Brothers in New York, kind of a cog in the machine,
Right.
getting
Right.
things just heaped on top of you while you're chained to your desk, literally, pretty much. So yeah, it's a different place today.
Now, when you think about the impact that Mowgli had on you in terms of the person that you became and your life, how do you see that?
Well, I know it's not often that like I wouldn't say a day goes by, but a month goes by. I don't think about Mowgli or you know getting in the outdoors. I don't get to do as much as I'd like. It's quite different doing it out here versus in the White Mountains or in New Hampshire. I go mountain biking, I go skiing, I go running, but we don't have kind of the same environment out here. But yeah, I think it helps build a lot of confidence because there's a lot of achievement. Every year you're gonna figure something out, right? Your knife test, your swim test, or one level of marksmanship in the rifle range, or whatever it may be. Everybody's gonna get some new skills and confidence and accomplishment throughout it. And certainly, it set me on a path of rowing, which is a big part of my college career. I don't compete anymore. But I have, a lot of friends from the rowing community, my rowing team in college. Actually, my college roommate, fraternity brother on the rowing team, Jim Washburn, I hooked up with Mowgli and ended up being the crew coach there for a few years.
I remember the name. You bet. You bet.
So
he was your roommate in college?
Jim? Yeah, we were good friends all 4 years and roommates our senior year. And so that was, I think, a cool experience for him. He's a teacher, so it was a good fit for him. Sure. He also still coaches at Craftsbury in Vermont.
Oh, okay.
School and rowing center there. Yeah.
I'll have to try and get a hold of him. He's definitely a person that a lot of people mention and remember. So it would be fun. It would be fun to hook up with him. I also noticed that you from time to time have either threatened or gone skiing with Mark Ventimiglia.
Yeah, so after around the time I was in grad school at USC, I lived in Los Angeles for a total of about 12 years before moving down to Orange County, which is between San Diego and Los Angeles, where I live now. So Venti was quite a character. I think he was doing location scouting
Oh
for
yeah. Yeah.
film industry, and so yeah, we ran into each other a few times and hung out a bit in those days. I haven't seen him in a while.
Huh. Yeah. Well, he is a character. I always enjoyed him. I'll never forget that there was a photograph of him with this big old bulldog, as I recall, uh, that he used for his marketing purposes.
Yeah, well, I think he had some health issues and moved back to LA. I'm not big on social media myself, so
Yeah.
I kind of lose track of people a little bit, but hopefully he's okay. Yeah, he was famous, of course, in Mowgli for doing the watermelon, which was, you know, throwing yourself into the water, uh, almost like a belly flop, and then pulling your knees in and going in head first. He was a pretty big guy in those days, so it was, it was quite a sight to see him flying through the air and crashing into the water. That, you know,
Yeah, I remember that. He was pretty fearless when it came to doing that. Yeah, I was not big on that myself. The watermelon, I had forgotten about that. Oh, well, Adrian, this has been really fun, and I hope we'll catch up with each other at some point, real time.
yeah, sounds good. Appreciate it, Wayne. Take care.
Thanks a lot, and good hunting.
You too.
Take care.